Hey everyone, welcome to our channel Success Stories, the place where we share powerful and inspiring stories that can motivate you and help you improve your English. Today I'm going to tell you the incredible story of Colonel Sanders, the man who started KFC at the age of 65. But before we jump into his story, let me ask you a few questions. Are you 25 and feel like you're not getting anywhere in life? Are you 40 and wonder if it's already too late to achieve your dreams? Are you jobless right now and feeling discouraged? Do you look at successful people and think, maybe success isn't meant for me? If you answered yes to any of these, let me tell you something important. You are not a failure. It is not too late for you. Colonel Sanders showed us that it's possible to start over, no matter how old you are. After hearing his story, I promise you will believe that age doesn't stop you from achieving your dreams. You see, Colonel Sanders' life wasn't easy at all. He faced so many challenges, just like many of us do. But the one thing he did that most people don't is that he never gave up. His story is a perfect reminder that life is about trying, failing, and trying again, and you can always start fresh, no matter how many setbacks you face. When Colonel Sanders was 65, most people were thinking about retirement. They were slowing down, ready to relax after years of hard work. But not him. He decided to start something new. He didn't think he was too old. He didn't listen to the voices that told him it was too late. Instead, he followed his passion for cooking and kept pushing forward, even though he had failed many times before. Colonel Sanders' story proves that success doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't happen by giving up when things get tough. It happens when you keep trying, even when the road is hard. His story is an example that no matter where you are in life, you can still turn things around. So, if you're feeling down or discouraged, remember Colonel Sanders. Remember that no matter your age, no matter your struggles, you have the power to make your dreams come true. All it takes is the courage to keep going and never stop believing in yourself. Let's go back to the year 1890 on September 9th, when Harlan David Sanders was born in a small house in Henryville, Indiana, USA. From the very beginning, his life was full of struggles. When he was just 5 years old, something terrible happened that would change his life forever. His father passed away unexpectedly. Imagine being just a little child, only 5 years old, and waking up one morning to find out your dad is never coming back. It's a tough thing to go through at any age, but especially when you're so young. His mother, now alone and with 3 children to care for, was heartbroken. But she didn't have time to feel sorry for herself. She had to work hard every day to provide for her family. Because of this, little Harlan had to step up and take care of things at home. At just 5 years old, he started learning how to cook meals for his family. He did everything he could to help his mother, from cooking to cleaning, and even taking care of his younger brothers and sisters. It was in these early years that Harlan discovered his love for cooking. He didn't know it at the time, but this small interest in cooking would grow into something that would change the world. Sadly, school wasn't an option for Harlan. Because his mother had to work all the time, there wasn't enough money to send him to school. At 7 years old, he began working on a farm, and by the time he was 10 years old, he was already working full-time. He didn't go to school like the other kids. Instead, he worked long hours on the farm, and for this hard work, he was paid just $2 a month. Can you imagine working all month long for just $2? Life was very tough for Harlan. When Harlan turned 12, things at home became even harder. His mother remarried, but her new husband was not kind. He treated Harlan badly, and life at home became unbearable. So, at just 12 years old, Harlan made a big decision. He couldn't stay in that home any longer. He decided to run away. This was just the beginning of a tough journey where Harlan would have to figure things out on his own. After running away, he faced even more struggles. He worked many different jobs. He worked as a streetcar conductor, a firefighter, a steam engine stoker, and even as a soldier in the U.S. Army. He did everything he could to survive, but no matter what job he took, he failed at most of them. Harlan just couldn't seem to keep a job, and his life wasn't getting any better. He had a lot of bad luck, and it seemed like nothing would ever work out. By the time he was 40, Harlan had nothing to show for all the hard work he had done. He had tried and failed so many times that it seemed like success was never going to come for him. But despite all the challenges, he refused to give up. Harlan's life wasn't over yet, and he was about to get a second chance. At the age of 40, he managed to get a small gas station in Kentucky. Finally, Harlan thought this might be the chance he had been waiting for. He decided to sell fried chicken to the travelers who stopped by the gas station. And guess what? People loved his fried chicken. Slowly, word spread, and more people came to taste his chicken. Harlan's life was beginning to look brighter. But life had other plans for Harlan. One day, the government built a new highway near his gas station, and just like that, the number of travelers passing by his station dropped. He lost his business and ended up broke again, with nothing to his name. Once again, Harlan found himself at rock bottom. But here's the important part. Harlan didn't give up. Even after all the failures and hardships, he still had a dream. He had something special that no one else had. His secret fried chicken recipe. This was the thing that had started to bring him success before, and he wasn't ready to let go of it. Little did he know, this recipe would eventually change his life forever. Even after Harlan Sanders lost his gas station, he wasn't ready to give up. He had already faced so many failures in his life, but somehow he always found the strength to keep going. However, the struggles weren't over for him. In fact, his next few years would prove to be even more difficult. At the age of 44, Harlan found a job as a cook in a small cafeteria. He thought this might be his chance to get back on his feet, but things didn't go as planned. He was let go from that job, and once again, he was left with nothing. It felt like no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't keep a job or find any real success. Harlan could have given up right there and said, "Maybe I'm just not meant to succeed." But instead, he kept looking for new opportunities. At 48, Harlan took a job as a dishwasher. Again, he tried his best, but things didn't work out. He was fired once more. He had worked hard all his life, but he had nothing to show for it. Failure after failure seemed to follow him wherever he went. At the age of 50, Harlan thought he had finally found a steady job. He became a motel manager, but once again, he faced disappointment. The business didn't work out, and he was fired again. He didn't stop there, though. Harlan tried to open a new restaurant. He thought that maybe if he could just start his own place, he would finally succeed. But even this dream was crushed. A fire destroyed the restaurant, and once again he found himself starting over from scratch. Imagine what it must have felt like for him. From a young age, he had lost his father, struggled to make a living, and been fired from job after job. He tried to start businesses only to lose them, too. Harlan had already failed so many times. It must have seemed like there was no way out. At times, he must have felt like he would never catch a break. Now, Harlan was 62 years old, and he was completely broke. He had no job, no business, and no clear future ahead of him. He had spent decades working hard, but it felt like nothing was working. He had tried more than 20 different jobs and failed at nearly all of them. Most people would have given up by now. They would have thought, "I'm too old to try again. I've failed too many times." But Harlan didn't give up. He knew he still had one thing left to try, his secret fried chicken recipe. Despite being broke and jobless, Harlan decided to do something crazy. He started thinking about how he could make money with his chicken recipe. He had sold his fried chicken to travelers before, and they loved it. So, he thought, what if I sell my recipe to other restaurant owners? Harlan didn't have any money left, but he had a dream and his recipe. He didn't have anything to lose. He put on his white suit, grabbed his recipe, and began knocking on restaurant doors. Imagine how tough that must have been. He wasn't young anymore. He didn't have a fancy office or money to make things easier. All he had was his recipe, a bit of hope, and a lot of determination. But Harland faced even more rejection. Over and over, restaurant owners laughed at him. They told him his idea wouldn't work. They said he was too old and that no one would want to buy his fried chicken recipe. Harland didn't let these rejections stop him, though. He kept going, one restaurant after another. He was rejected over 900 times. Can you imagine how hard that must have been? He could have stopped after the first rejection or the 100th, but he didn't. For 900 times, Harland heard the word no. But on the 901st try, someone finally said yes. A restaurant owner decided to give his fried chicken a chance. This one small yes changed everything. It was the turning point that Harland had been waiting for his whole life. Harland's story shows us that no matter how many times you fail, you must keep going. He didn't let failure define him. Instead, he used every failure as a lesson, learning how to improve and keep pushing forward. Even though he was older, even though he had been rejected hundreds of times, Harland kept his eyes on the prize. His story teaches us that failure is not the end. It's just a part of the journey. Harland Sanders was rejected, fired, and lost everything more than once, but he never let it stop him. He kept trying, and eventually, his hard work paid off. So remember, no matter how many times you fail, you can always start again. Success is often just one step beyond where you think you can go. Despite all the setbacks Harland Sanders faced in his life, he never gave up. When he was 62 years old with little money and no job, most people would have thought it was too late to start anything new. At that age, many people feel like their time is running out and that there's no point in trying anymore. But Harland showed us that age doesn't matter when it comes to pursuing your dreams. His determination became one of his greatest strengths, and it would eventually lead him to the success he had been seeking for so long. Even after losing everything, his gas station, his restaurant, and his savings, Harland didn't let his failures define him. He was determined to keep going, no matter how difficult things got. The hardships he faced didn't make him weaker. Instead, they made him stronger. The more times he was knocked down, the more he learned how to get back up. Harland had a secret weapon that he carried with him through all the tough times, his passion for cooking. He loved cooking, especially frying chicken, and it was this passion that kept him going. No matter how many times he was told no, he believed in his chicken recipe and knew that it was special. People loved his fried chicken, and that belief never left him. At 62 years old, Harland didn't have much. He was old, broke, and had faced failure after failure. But he had one thing no one could take away: his recipe. He believed in it so strongly that he knew he had to keep pushing forward even if no one else believed in him. Harland's decision to start selling his fried chicken recipe to restaurant owners was bold, but he didn't stop after facing rejection. He kept trying, even though people laughed at him and told him his idea would never work. 900 times he was rejected. Imagine how discouraging that must have been. But Harland didn't quit. He knew that success wasn't going to come easy. He understood that he would have to keep fighting for it, no matter how many people told him to give up. Finally, after 900 rejections, Harland got his first yes. That one yes was all it took to change his life. From that point on, more and more restaurant owners started to trust his chicken recipe. Slowly, his idea began to grow, and he started to see the success he had worked so hard for. But he wouldn't have reached this point if he had given up after a few failures. He had to keep pushing forward, even when things seemed hopeless. Harland's story teaches us one of the most important lessons in life: never give up. He faced rejection, loss, and disappointment over and over, but he never let those things stop him. Instead, he used each failure as a lesson and pushed forward. By 65 years old, he had built what we now know as KFC, one of the most famous fast food chains in the world. But it wasn't just luck that got him there. It was his refusal to give up that made all the difference. He never stopped believing in his dream. Even though he was older than most people starting new businesses, he kept moving forward. One of the most amazing things about Harlan's story is that he didn't just give up when things were tough. He found new ways to adapt. For example, when his restaurant burned down, he didn't throw in the towel and say, "That's it. I can't do this anymore." Instead, he tried something different. He started selling his recipe to other restaurants. When things didn't work out at the gas station, he didn't let it break him. He learned from his mistakes and kept going. What's even more impressive is that Harlan kept going when he was already in his 60s and 70s. Most people at that age are thinking about retirement and relaxing, but Harlan was still chasing his dream. He kept working, traveling across the country, and meeting restaurant owners to sell his recipe. At that age, he could have easily said, "I'm too old for this. It's too late to start over." But instead, he kept pushing, believing that it was never too late to achieve his dreams. This is one of the biggest lessons we can learn from Harlan's life. No matter what age you are, it's never too late to start something new. You don't have to be young to achieve success. As long as you have a dream, a passion, and the determination to never give up, you can still create the life you want. Harlan's story is proof that persistence pays off. He didn't give up when things got tough. He kept working hard, even when things seemed impossible. He believed in his dream, and that belief pushed him to keep moving forward. And eventually, after years of hard work, his dream became a reality. So, if you're facing tough times right now or feeling like it's too late for you to achieve your goals, think about Harlan Sanders. If he had given up after all those rejections, he would have never built KFC. But because he kept going, he not only built a successful business, but also became a symbol of what's possible when you never give up. After years of failure, struggles, and determination, Colonel Sanders finally achieved the success he had worked so hard for. At the age of 65, when most people were thinking about retirement, Harlan Sanders created one of the world's most famous food chains, KFC. It all started with his belief in his fried chicken recipe and that one decision to sell it to restaurant owners. After facing rejection time and time again, he finally found someone who believed in his idea. This first yes led to more yeses, and soon enough, KFC was born. The Kentucky Fried Chicken brand quickly became hugely successful. It didn't take long before people all over America were lining up just to taste his fried chicken. The recipe, with its 11 secret herbs and spices, was unlike anything anyone had ever tasted before. People loved it. By the time Sanders was 73, KFC had already expanded to over 600 locations across the country. His dream had come true, and he was finally seeing the success he had always imagined. He had gone from being broke, jobless, and rejected by so many people to becoming the founder of a multi-million-dollar company. It was a victory, and it felt incredible. Harlan Sanders had created something lasting, something that would change the world. His hard work, persistence, and never-give-up attitude had paid off. But as amazing as his success was, it didn't come without its challenges. As KFC grew, Sanders faced another problem. He wasn't a businessman. He was a cook. He loved cooking and serving people, but he didn't enjoy the stressful business side of things. Managing a huge company with hundreds of employees and restaurants was overwhelming for him, especially at his age. The company was growing so fast, and Sanders, who had worked tirelessly to get to this point, was finding it harder and harder to keep up with everything. He began to feel tired and stressed out. There was too much to handle on his own. He was traveling constantly, trying to make sure everything ran smoothly. He knew that the company needed more management, and he wasn't the right person to provide it. So, at the age of 73, Sanders made a difficult decision. He decided to sell KFC to a group of investors for $2 million. At the time, $2 million was a huge amount of money, but in today's world, it doesn't seem like much for a global brand. And Sanders thought that by selling the company, he would be able to relax and enjoy the rest of his life. He had worked so hard, and now he could finally rest. But things didn't go as Sanders had hoped. The new owners of KFC started making changes. They began cutting corners and using cheaper ingredients to increase profits. Sanders was furious. He felt like the heart and soul of KFC was being destroyed. His chicken recipe, the very thing that made KFC famous, was no longer being made the way he had originally intended. The quality of the food dropped, and Sanders hated what the company had become. Sanders began to publicly criticize the new owners, saying that the chicken they served was no longer made using his recipe. He even called it terrible. It was hard for him to watch something he had worked so hard to build lose its quality and reputation. He was heartbroken. He had poured his entire life into KFC, and now it seemed like it was no longer what it used to be. He couldn't do anything to fix it because he no longer owned the company. This became one of the biggest regrets of Sanders' life. He wished he had made a different decision about selling the company. He wished he could have kept KFC and continued running it the way he had always done. But it was too late. The company had already been sold, and he couldn't go back. Even though Sanders had built a global empire, he found himself feeling empty. His heart was still with KFC, and he couldn't stand watching it change into something he didn't recognize. It was a bittersweet success. He had made his dream come true, but at the same time, he had lost control of it, and it didn't feel the same to him anymore. But even in the midst of his regret, Sanders didn't stop. He didn't give up on his love for cooking or his desire to keep sharing his story. After selling KFC, he started another restaurant called Claudia Sanders Dinner House, named after his wife. However, because of the legal restrictions from selling KFC, he couldn't use the name KFC anymore. Even though he couldn't run KFC, he kept working and kept doing what he loved. He also traveled the world, visiting KFC locations, meeting fans, and spreading the message of how he built his empire. He became a symbol of hard work, perseverance, and the idea that success is never limited by age. People still loved him and respected him for what he had achieved. Despite his regret about selling KFC, Sanders continued to inspire others until his death in 1980 at the age of 90. He had lived a long and eventful life. He had faced unimaginable struggles and failures, yet he had built a billion-dollar company that would continue to grow for many years after he was gone. He may have regretted selling KFC, but the impact of his success was undeniable. His story would live on, and KFC would continue to serve millions of people around the world. Harlan Sanders' life was full of ups and downs, from extreme poverty to unbelievable success, from loss to regret. But through it all, he never stopped working. He showed us that success isn't just about achieving your dreams. It's also about the choices you make along the way and how you deal with the consequences of those decisions. In the end, even though Sanders had his regrets, his legacy remained strong. He had shown the world that it's never too late to achieve your dreams, no matter how many times you fail or how old you are. And while his regret about selling KFC stayed with him, he still left behind an empire that would grow for generations to come. Colonel Sanders' life is a powerful example of how perseverance, passion, and belief in yourself can lead to great success, no matter what age you are. His story teaches us many important lessons that we can apply to our own lives. Let's take a look at some of the key lessons we can learn from his incredible journey. One of the most inspiring lessons from Colonel Sanders' life is that it's never too late to chase your dreams. Sanders didn't start KFC until he was 65 years old. At that age, most people are thinking about retirement and slowing down. But Sanders showed us that success has no age limit. Even if you think you're too old to start something new, remember that it's never too late to pursue your passion. If you have an idea, a dream, or a goal, you can still go after it, no matter how old you are. Age should never be an excuse to stop trying. Another important lesson we learn from Sanders is that failure is not the end. Sanders failed at many things before he found success with KFC. He worked over 20 different jobs, and many of them ended in failure. He started businesses that didn't succeed, faced rejection, and lost money again and again. But he didn't let those failures stop him. Instead of giving up, he learned from each experience and kept moving forward. He never let failure define him. Failure is just a stepping stone toward success. Every time Sanders fell, he got back up and kept pushing forward. Colonel Sanders' story is a great example of how persistence leads to success. When he decided to sell his chicken recipe to restaurant owners, he faced rejection after rejection. He knocked on doors one by one and got turned away over 1,000 times. Can you imagine how many people would have given up after hearing no so many times? But Sanders didn't give up. He believed in his product and kept going. Persistence was his key to success. He proved that the only way to fail is to quit. If you have a goal, don't let obstacles or rejections stop you. Keep trying, and eventually, you'll find someone who believes in you. Colonel Sanders' true passion was cooking. He didn't give up on his love for food even when life was tough. He found ways to share that passion with others, and in doing so, he created a successful business. Following your passion is so important because it gives you the energy and motivation to keep going when things get difficult. When you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. Even when Sanders lost everything, he never stopped cooking. Passion can be the fuel that drives you toward your dreams, and it can help you overcome the challenges you face along the way. Colonel Sanders' life also teaches us the importance of believing in yourself. Even when no one else believed in him, he knew he had something special with his fried chicken recipe. When everyone said no, he still believed in the value of his idea. It's easy to feel discouraged when others doubt you or tell you that your dreams are impossible. But self-belief is crucial. If you believe in your abilities and trust your instincts, you'll find the strength to keep going, even when the road is tough. Sanders showed us that if you believe in yourself, others will eventually believe in you too. Colonel Sanders did have one major regret in his life, and that was selling KFC. He wished he had kept control of the company he worked so hard to build. However, even with this regret, Sanders didn't let it ruin his life. He continued to work, traveled the world, and shared his story with others. While regrets are natural, it's important not to let them hold you back. You can't change the past, but you can control what you do today. The key is to learn from your mistakes, accept them, and move forward. Sanders didn't let regret stop him from continuing to pursue his passion. Never give up. The biggest lesson from Colonel Sanders' life is that giving up is never an option. He faced so many difficulties, from losing his father at a young age to struggling with multiple job failures. He faced financial ruin and rejection over and over again, but he never gave up. He kept pushing forward, and in the end, he created a global brand. No matter how hard things may seem, or how many times you fall, never give up on your dreams. The path to success is rarely easy, but it's worth it if you keep going. Sanders taught us that the key to success is to always get back up when life knocks you down. Lastly, Colonel Sanders shows us that action is key to turning your dreams into reality. No matter how old you are or how many times you've failed, the most important step you can take is to start. Sanders didn't sit around waiting for the perfect moment to start his business. At 62 years old, when he was broke and living in his car, he started knocking on doors to sell his chicken recipe. He took action, and that's what made all the difference. If you want to change your life, take action today. Whether it's starting a new project, learning a new skill, or making a plan for your future, it all starts with one step forward. Colonel Sanders' life is a reminder that success is possible for anyone at any stage of life if they are willing to work hard, never give up, and believe in their dreams. His story proves that you can overcome the toughest of challenges. And no matter how many times you fail, you can still find success if you keep going. So, Take a lesson from Colonel Sanders, and remember, it's never too late to start. It's never too late to chase your dreams, and it's never too late to succeed. End note. If you're inspired by Colonel Sanders' journey, don't give up. Keep moving forward and stay tuned for more stories that can change your life. No matter what, keep going, and you'll get where you want to be.